And now, Mike's thoughts.
Fantasy football is right around the corner. Fantasy football is a big part of our daily lives right here at Man Hour and, of course, across most of the world. However, do not get fantasy football and real-life football mixed up. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is when people want to rank said players, this player is better than this player is better than that player, a lot of them are referring to stats and fantasy numbers, right? All basically make-believe stuff on the fantasy side of things. For example, in this fantasy breakdown that I have right here, it has Saquon Barkley as running back number 1, Derrick Henry as running back number 2, Christian McCaffrey as running back number 3. Do we really think Saquon Barkley is better than Christian McCaffrey going into the 2024 NFL season? No. Nobody in their right mind, I feel, would put Saquon Barkley at number 1 and then CMC at number 3. There is no way stretch about it. Looking at wide receivers here. Garrett Wilson, wide receiver number 1. A.J. Brown, wide receiver number 2. Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver number 3. Are we saying that Garrett Wilson is the best receiver in the NFL? No. Guys, do not get fantasy, do not get real-life rankings mixed together. It is a bad juju, and it's going to lead you into a lot of arguments. Also, this fantasy football ranking here had Josh Allen, number 1 at QB1, Jalen Hurts at number 2. You got to scroll all the way down to QB5 before you get Patrick Mahomes. Is Patrick Mahomes a 5th-rated quarterback in the NFL? No. What I'm saying is when we release our players in the upcoming days, upcoming weeks of the top 5 running backs, top 5 receivers, top 5 quarterbacks, top 5 tight ends, top 5 defenses, do not get it twisted. These are not based off fantasy numbers. It's based off real life, eye test, and projection what they're going to do in the 2024 NFL season. Cue that intro. Are you ready for the best damn NFL show on the planet? Man Hour Nation, rise up.
Hey, let's go. Hitting that gridiron, we going hard, we running the plays. You know the vibe, only the strong survive. Gotta keep your head in the game. Talking NFL, uncut, straight raw. Steady bringing that sauce. We about to take off. Get it hype, this Man Hour Sport Talk. Yeah. From the quarterback to the lineman, everybody bringing heat. You don't really want to try them. Hey, who gon' win? It's a battle of the giants. This show is the flyest. Nobody can deny it. This is Man Hour. Sport Talk. Man Hour. Sport Talk. What team you reppin'? We keep it interesting. Who caught another down? Who got that interception? This is Man Hour. Sport Talk. Man Hour. Sport Talk. What team you reppin'? We keep it interesting. Who caught another down? Who got that interception? Let's go.
What is up, Man Hour Nation? Michael Buckheischer here with the Man Hour. Be sure to visit manhourradio.com, manhour.co to check out the merchandise page or check out the blog section as well. But most importantly, check out our forums over there. We got brand new forums. We're really pushing it hard these next couple weeks to let's get 100 members over there, guys. We released it back in March, kind of that soft launch thing, and now we are full blown. If you want to go talk some NFL shit over there, head over to the forums and check it out. But as promised, we're going to talk a little bit about Washington Commanders today. And we got the man, the myth, the legend, the greatest Washington Commander fan out there, Michael Burlew. What's up, Mike? What's going on today, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm the biggest because I'm probably one of the last ones remaining of them. So, yeah, that's all we can do. But
yeah, so obviously the Commanders may be a dying breed, but you are a fan through and through, and that is why I have you on here. I love it when you talk smack on our posts over there on IG and Facebook. But for the people that do not know you, explain who you are, what you're all about, and also tell them about your podcast.
Sure. My name is Michael Burlew. I actually grew up in Morrisville, Pennsylvania, and the New Jersey area. I am a Philadelphia fan in every single sport except for the NFL. And everybody who gets confused on that, the basic story is, as I was growing up, all I have memories at a very young age was the early days of the USFL with the Philadelphia Stars, 2-time champions. Go Philadelphia Stars. But the first memory I can remember of an NFL game was the great 82 Super Bowl. I remember seeing Johnny Riggins plowing down the field on the Miami Dolphins on that 4th and 1, clinching the Super Bowl. I remember going to sleep as they announced that the Washington Redskins had become the Super Bowl champions, and just something about it said, you know what? I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to stick with it. And no, it worked for quite a while being a Redskins fan over an Eagles fan. Then the 2000s came, and that all got screwed up. But been a lifelonger. I've been to many of their games. I've gone to Philadelphia games. I got my butt chewed out, and I chewed them back out. But I love the team. Maybe one day they'll love me back.
Yeah, I just want to point it out there because we do got a lot of Miami Dolphins fans that do follow the show. The Redskins did beat the Miami Dolphins in the Super Bowl. Just to let all you Miami Dolphins know that you guys still do not have a Super Bowl. Sorry about your luck. But the Commanders, Redskins do. But I also know, Michael, that you have a podcast. I have listened to your podcast several times. Tell the people a little bit about your podcast.
Sure. It's a comedy radio style podcast called Verbal Shenanigans. I am the host along with my buddy Scott Brennan. And like I say, it's kind of a comedy banter thing. We do bits, we do current events, we do a lot of comedy stuff. And every week we have a unique guest on the show. Now, it varies from time to time, but for our NFL fans out there, I've had Joe Jacoby from the Commanders. I've had Trent Dilfer, Super Bowl champion. I had Randy Cross a couple months ago, Super Bowl for the 49ers. I've had J.J. Vernon on, but we like to mix it up. So along with all that, I've had the world's fastest backwards mile runner. I've had a stool bank on the show. I've had the world's largest female athlete who was a sumo wrestler in the UK. We keep it different. We have different actors, musicians, celebrities. We do it weekly. It's Verbal Shenanigans. Check it out on Podbean, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts.
Yeah, guys. So I will be posting his link in the Spotify here in the description below. So be sure to check it out. I haven't listened to you guys for about a few months here, but I'm gonna have to check out that Trent Dilfer show because I love me some Trent Dilfer. I'm not gonna lie. But let's talk about your Washington Commanders here. Obviously, last season was not quite the way you wanted it to go. You ultimately did go 4-13, losing the last 7 games of the season. But also mid-season, you did kind of shuffle the deck and traded away some of your defensive studs, right? You traded away Marquez Sweat to the Bears and Chase Young to the San Francisco 49ers. Moving forward, looking into the 2024 season, obviously they're not there and they weren't there half of the season, but how does that affect you guys moving forward? Is it a big loss or do you think you can rebound from losing those guys?
I feel Sweat was a loss. He was kind of the leader of the team. I totally understand why they did it. I would consider this year the official first year of the new management. Last year, I think the sale went through in June or July or something like that. Yeah. Way too late to really shake up anything right there. But I feel what they're doing right there. I saw what the new GM is doing. They're getting capital for their stuff and all. There are a ton of contracts this year. There are 1-year contracts where I feel they're sitting back going, okay, if we hit the iceberg, we got a few lifeboats that we can send out there and move on. Obviously, it's a tough thing. We picked up a couple Cowboys for defensive line, which could help out. I still feel that they might even make moves the way that they got Newton in the second round at defensive tackle, and Allen kind of changing his vibes about what he was always like, I'm all for the Commanders. And then he got on that tirade after 5th or 6th loss about I'm sick of this. So I can this is going to affect us, but I think these are kind of the first steps in trying to get back into the direction of the old school Redskins,
Right. And just to add to your point, you guys did have a pretty active off season. You added tight end Zach Ertz, you added Austin Eckler, and you guys have also, added some defensive guys and like just like you spoke of here. But I want to focus on the offensive side of the ball. And Austin Eckler, he has come out and like and said, finally I can go into an offense where I'm not going to run the ball 300 plus times a season. When you first heard that, what were your first initial thoughts? You're like, Austin Eckler, you're a running back. You're supposed to run the ball. What were your thoughts when he said something like that?
I feel with the design of the team, it kind of makes sense to what he's saying. I mean, Robinson is the workhorse running back. I like him. There's nothing special about him, but he's the guy you're going to give 20, 25 times. It's like go up the middle. You can take the hits and kind of live with it. I don't find it too troubling because I see him more as both the kind of like the second down and the third down kind of running back from there. So, yeah, I mean, it all depends on how the system is set up, but I'm not terribly worried about him on the running side. I want to see a lot more out of the backfield. As we talked before the show, there's talk about McCaffrey's been getting some looks in tailback. They still have Rodriguez from a couple years ago. So they have options if they feel like, all right, we're going to keep you as a third down running back and keep you safe by putting others out there for you.
Right. So one of the biggest head scratchers to me signing this offseason was the tight end of Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz was recently an Arizona Cardinal. I think he basically said he doesn't want to play for the Arizona Cardinals about week 3, week 4 last season, was anticipating being picked up by a team, never ultimately got picked up. Now he's with the Washington Commanders here. Do you expect Zach Ertz to be that number one tight end, or is somebody that you guys drafted from my Kansas State University, Ben Stinnett, going to be the guy? Like, what do you expect from Zach Ertz?
I feel like he's a good name. He's a good leader, but I can't fathom him being a major factor in this team. He's one, though. Basically, if you told me Dan Snyder picked up Zach Ertz, I wouldn't have been surprised there. I was a little kind of thrown back by the pick, but he could be just a leader in locker room. I know they have a couple. I'm trying to think of the one, Amari something, our third tight end from last year. He got injured kind of early on. There was a lot of rumblings like he could have been something right there. So I think he'll be a good leader. Maybe he'll go into it with a rejuvenated thought process, but brutal honesty, I'm looking in the 20 to 30 catch range at best, and I wouldn't be surprised if I'm stretching for that number.
Yeah, so do you think he's strictly there just for a rah-rah guy, kind of leader of the locker room, kind of taking that rookie quarterback under his wing and leading him in the right directions, kind of what it seems like here? When I look at your wide receiver core, you have potentially a really, really decent wide receiver core. You got Jamison Crowder still. You got Scary Terry in there. You got Dotson, and you also drafted Luke McCaffrey as well, which is doubling right now as a tailback as well. When you look at this wide receiver core, Scary Terry, Crowder, and Dobson kind of really screams a really good receiver core at me. How would you judge your guys' wide receiver core going into this season?
They have the potential to be very good. It's all with, now that we have, as a Washington fan, I'll say we have our quote-unquote quarterback, because we've said it about 35 times already in the last few years. If Daniels can be the quarterback that they all say he is, maybe we can start seeing the numbers on there. I love Terry McLaurin dearly. Biggest problem I have with him, he makes amazing catches, but he's not getting distance on that cornerback. That's the biggest problem I have with the wide receiver one. I was sort of one of the few that when I was hearing rumblings of Ayuk trade coming over, I was kind of like, I might like that, and I'll make Terry a 2, where it's like, I'm going to go in the middle, and even though there's guys in front of me, I'm going to find a way to catch that ball. But the potential's there. Dotson, he showed stretches, but he can stretch the field. Crowder is a good like 4. Dommy Brown, if he ever meets his potential, and no, he was stretching the field. He got a few touchdowns a couple years ago in the Wentz years, and also everything is potential, but it's all with the execution. Can Kingsbury come up with a plan where we're getting open things, and if we get the tailbacks and the Ecklers and the tight ends going, then we can start seeing it and start getting progress. But I still need to see it to be like, I'm fully on board for this.
Yeah. So you guys have potentially kind of had a sneaky good roster. I'm not going to lie. As a passive Cowboys fan, when I see this roster, I'm kind of like, don't let them get hot, right? You added a new head coach. You add a new offensive coordinator. But most importantly, you guys did draft your quarterback in Jayden Daniels this season. Jayden Daniels seems to have a lot of upside. What have you been seeing? What have you been noticing from camp? And what do you expect from him with this new look offense?
I think the biggest thing that I wanted to see that I'm loving is maturity from him. Like when they sign him and everybody's going rah, rah, he's like, haven't done anything, anybody. Let me get my feet going. Let me become the quarterback you think I'm going to be before you start saying, give me a Subway commercial, give me this, give me that. Hearing all this stuff about getting in 5 a.m. He's developing a relationship with McCaffrey, which I really love right there. And all, as we've always needed, like that third option. So those are all good things right there. He has all the tools. I would like to see him, as he goes along with his career, get a little weight on him. I mean, with the terrible conditions as now Commanders Field, there's definitely thoughts of nightmares of RG3 pass and all with the ripped ACLs and so forth. So I'd like to see a little meat on him and make sure he understands when he gets running to slide there. But everything is in line for finally having a quarterback. I'm very excited. I'm very glad they didn't fall for the Drake May thing and let him go to New England. I'm super excited for this setup. It's all a matter of getting that system going and getting him accustomed to it, to the NFL, and start getting some wins.
Yeah. One thing that made me fall in love with Jayden Daniels this draft was when they had a pro combine, he had opportunities to work at other places. You know, he had opportunities to throw at the NFL combine here in Indianapolis. He decided to do everything back at his home stadium so the people around him could get looks, right? His receivers and some of the tailbacks. And that really showed a lot of maturity and much maturity that you need going into a situation like you guys do have in Washington. Because let's just be honest, it is right now, it's probably one of the worst franchises out there. Granted, new ownership, new general manager, new everything. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But here on the Man Hour, we speak a lot about potential. And potentially, I want you to talk about your Washington Commanders. We talk about a ceiling and a floor. Like, how many wins do you think they can max out? 12, 11, 14 wins? Or what is an extreme, terrible season? What is a floor and a ceiling for your Commanders?
I would say at the ceiling, I would probably say about 9 wins, kind of like sneak into the third wild card. If I had to like put money down, I'm putting it in the 7 to 9 range. I feel like early on they got good matchups and teams where we've seen it from every year and all. The new coach, a new system where these teams are going in going, well, I got to look at Arizona Cardinals videos from 5 years ago to figure out Kingsbury. I got to watch Dallas Cowboy last year. I can't figure out what I'm actually going to see. So I think they can take advantage of it. Schedule is a little rough. I mean, playing the AFC North, that does not help a team that's trying to get their legs going on there. The absolute floor, I would probably guesstimate around in the 4 to 5 range, and that is basically if things aren't working out, if we get an injury and we have to go back to Marcus Mariota to try to win games and kind of look like last year, just struggling. if the offensive line isn't working. They had some great ads, but I'm still questioning their decisions at tackle right now. They have the third rounder from TCU, who's a guard listed as the number one tackle on one side and Cornelius Lucas on the other. So that's not the greatest setup. I'm hoping they pick up a tackle when releases happen during the preseason. But I mean, at the end of the day, everybody's got to look at this as the first building block year because, like I said, you can't really count what they could do last year with how late everybody got in. They got the new GM and so forth. They might trade away some stuff if they're at the like 3-4 win and they're saying we're not hitting the wild card. They have like 40 some people on expiring contracts, so I can see them getting rid of an Allen, getting rid of Wagner, getting rid of Chin or something like that. If anybody has value, I think this GM is going to get rid of them if the season's cooked.
Yeah, so you mentioned this many times. This is the first season of the new regime, ownership, general manager, coaching, like etc. As a fan, I want you to take off your owner hat, put on your fan hat here. How many years do you give Dan Quinn to turn this team around before you're putting him on the hot seat?
I got to give him a good 3 on that. I wouldn't be surprised if it's less than that since I don't know this ownership group, just on the fact that all the rumors were they were going to get that hot defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator from Detroit, and magically they're like, we're not interested. You're basketball people, and kind of shoot them away. And Dan Quinn came back. I feel with the new ownership, they have to give him at least 3 though, because as we said, just the stench of every coach that left and basically badmouthed the organization, said how terrible everything is. They gotta get things going. They have to figure out their new stadium, and they have to fill that stadium with their actual fans instead of visiting fans that come down there. So I think they got to give them at least 3 years on that. But after that, then they have to consider somebody else, because then it's Daniels has 2 more years. If he's showing he's a real quarterback and you're not getting the wins and you know you're going to have to pay him $50 million, you got to figure something out fast.
Yeah, very, very true. All right, guys. So we are speaking with Michael Perlew here from the Verbal Shenanigans. His link to his podcast is down in the description below. But Michael, right now, gun to your head, you have to pick a record for the Washington Commanders in the 2024 NFL season. What is their record?
I'm going to go 7-10. I feel that they're going to kind of do what they do in many years. I think they're going to start hot. I think they're going to take advantage of nobody really knows what this scheme is going to be and take care of the Giants and the Cardinals early on and so forth. Then I think they're going to hit the brick wall when the Ravens and all the big AFC North teams come by. Then I think they're going to slip back and kind of get the last couple wins in the season. I could see Dallas resting people to get that week 18 where I get them at 7 and all just above what Vegas says we're going to do. So,
all right. So one more question before I let you go. Does Jaden Daniels start week 1?
I think he has to. I cannot see any advantage of putting Marcus Mariota out there. Nobody sits back and goes, he's a starter. Nobody thinks he's not even really a game manager. He's just kind of decent. I would say he's equivalent in a pinch, but you got to get the kid out there, get his legs out there, and just go with it. I mean, there's been enough losing. I think nobody's going into the season saying we got Super Bowl or bust. So I think you just got to go, kid, go out there into the fire. Let's start learning. Let's start making sure you know what it's like to be an NFL quarterback, and let's grow together.
All right, man. Thank you for joining me here today. Before I let you skate away here, tell the people one more time about your show and where they can find you.
All right. The show is called the Verbal Shenanigans Podcast. You can find them on any of your platforms, Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, and so forth. We have hilarious conversations. We have bits. Me and my friend Scott Brennan, we're both comedians. We have guests every single week on the show. I mean, I just talked to the head of the Antarctica Science Station last week. I never thought in my life I would ever talk to somebody in Antarctica, but I did. We're coming up on our 500th episode. We've been doing this for 10 years. We have a large catalog. Pretty much any interest you have in anything, we probably interviewed somebody in that. So check us out. The show is called Verbal Shenanigans.
All right, man. As always, thank you for joining us, and we'll have to have you on sometime during the season when the Commanders make the playoffs, and you are on cloud nine.
Sounds good, my friend.
All right, see you next time. My guy, Michael Burlew from Verbal Shenanigans. He has the Washington Commanders going about 7 wins this season. I see many people in the chat here saying 6 wins, 4 wins, 3 wins. Well, guys, guess what? I am going to shock you. I think I'm going to shock the world here when I tell you that the Washington Commanders are potentially a playoff team. Because when we really, truly look at the Washington Commanders moving forward, they do have a pretty good offense. Offensive line needs some help, but the defense is pretty much intact as well. They added some veterans. They added, Dante Flower, a junior, earlier this offseason. They added Bobby Wagner as well to add that veteran leadership. And they got a great mixture of young and old players on the Washington Commanders team. So let's go ahead and go through each and every week, talk about these like this particular games, and let's see if I have them higher than 7 wins or lower than 7 wins moving forward. Week number 1, they are on the road. Jayden Daniels gets his first start as the NFL quarterback with the Washington Commanders versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, guys, I've been speaking very highly of them basically ever since they got Baker Mayfield last season. I think this year continues on to that trek. I think Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a really good team. Hell, they might even be the real deal. I wouldn't quite put Super Bowl in their name yet, but they are right there. They are a really, really, really close team. And unfortunately, the Washington Commanders take the first L of the season into week 1 when they play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The one thing that I want to speak positive so far about the Washington Commanders schedule is usually a lot of their games that they are expected to win or favored to win are home games. A lot of these games early off in the season that they're not expected to win to even be a chance, and they are on the road. This will take pressure off of Jayden Daniels, I think, because when he does eventually come home and they are expected to win, he already has 4, 5, 6 games under his belt. So that is a big key to this year to the Washington Commanders schedule. But week number 2, first home game for Jayden Daniels, new head coach, new general manager, this is the ownership's second year, but this is their first full offseason, and we're deeming this their first season. New York Giants come into town and take on the Washington Commanders here. We have spoken about how bad I think the New York Giants are going to be. We have spoken about how discombobulated that team actually is. And I think Jayden Daniels gets his first win as a quarterback for the Washington Commanders week number 2 versus the New York Football Giants, moving them into a 1-1 record going into week 3. Once again, I said early this season they play a lot of tough games, but they're on the road. Gives the chance for this Commanders team to grow. Give this Jayden Daniels a chance to get, dry behind the ears, meaning growing up a little bit, right? Week 3, they do travel to Cincinnati to take on Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. This is another really good team in the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals schedule may not reflect of how good they are at the end of 2024 NFL season because they do play a lot of tough games, but the Bengals are a pretty good team. I do think the Commanders do lose this game ultimately, but they play well. It is a nice competitive game all 4 quarters, and the Bengals are just a little bit better than the Commanders in this Week 3 game, moving the Commanders to 1-2 on the season. Week 4, this is a game that they might be favored in. This is a game that when they travel to Arizona to take on the Cardinals and Kyler Murray and the boys, this is the game that we might see some swagger, some momentum start coming out of Washington. I think the Commanders do go into Arizona, and I do think they play a very competitive game. They play a complete game. They beat the Arizona Cardinals. Now, granted, it is the Arizona Cardinals. I have them not being very good this season, but it is still a good win. They are now a 500 team going into week 5. these next couple games here are tough for the Commanders. These next couple games are really not a rookie quarterback's friend. You are playing some of the top defenses in the NFL, some of the top teams in the NFL, and it starts with the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns come into Washington, D.C., and they kind of lay the wood to the Commanders. The Commanders were starting to climb up the ladder, starting to climb up the branch, but they get knocked down. They get knocked down a couple pegs in this game, moving them to 2-3 on the season. Week 6 is much of the same. At least they are on the road this week, not at home. They're traveling to Baltimore to take on Lamar Jackson and the boys. Now, historically, Lamar Jackson and the boys like to overlook these weaker opponents in middle of the season. Week 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. History tells you that they might be looking forward to the next game. History tells you that they're looking forward to that Browns game, to that Bengals game, right? There's 7, 8, 9 games. However, no matter how bad the Ravens played this game, they pull it out. Put the ball in Derrick Henry's hands, put the ball in Lamar Jackson's hands, and it's literally too much skill at this particular point. The Ravens do beat the Washington Commanders, moving them to 2-6 or 2-4 now on the season going into this Week 7 game. This Week 7 game here, you played the Buccaneers, you played the Bengals, you played the Browns, you played the Ravens. All top-notch teams. Let's not get it twisted. Week 7, it gets a little easier. It gets a little easier, and it shows on the field. Jayden Daniels comes out and plays a complete game. From start to finish, he is looking like a very, very good quarterback. No longer the rookiness is in him. Jayden Daniels looks like the man, the myth, the legend that many Commander fans think he's going to be, and he flexes on the Carolina Panthers in this Week 7 game, giving them their third win on the season. Week number 8, back at home, back-to-back home games for the first time this season. They welcome another rookie quarterback, Caleb Williams, and the Chicago Bears into town. Rookie-on-rookie crime this Week 8 matchup, and I think the later rookie gets the better of the higher rookie. Beating Jayden Daniels and the Washington Commanders do beat the Chicago Bears Week 8. The Chicago Bears have a lot of upside to them. The Chicago Bears have a really good roster around them. I'm not saying Caleb Williams is going to be the next greatest thing since sliced bread. We're not saying he's going to be a bust either. The problem in Chicago is their coaching staff. We'll be talking about the NFC North next week, and I'll tell you, Matt Eberflus may not even make it out of Week 6. The Chicago Bears have a very, very bad coaching staff, and it reflects in this Week 8 game versus the Commanders. The Commanders now have won 2 games in a row, winning 3 of their last 5. The people are starting to think the Commanders might kind of be getting the momentum going, right? Stringing some games together, starting to look pretty good. But then they go to New York. They did beat the Giants earlier this season. Yes, the Giants are a bad team. Yes, at this point, Daniel Jones and Brian Daboll might be fired. Who knows? But the Giants do get one of their 2 wins versus the Commanders in this Week 9 game. The Commanders kind of had a little swag about them, right? They beat the Giants Week 2. Hey, we played them Week 9. We're on a 2-game winning streak. Let's look forward to the Steelers. Let's look forward to the Eagles in 10, 11, 12 weeks here. Point of the matter is the Commanders are not there yet. They're not that good enough yet to be overlooking anything, and the Giants come up and nip them in the butt, breaking their 2-game winning streak, and this is when the things start trying to roll off here. One thing about the Commanders season this year, guys, is I don't think they're ever going to consistently put together back-to-back wins, right? They are not going to consistently play good NFL games. They're going to look great. They're going to look bad. Great, bad, medium, great, right? They're never going to be consistently putting together great NFL games, and that's what you do to win a lot of games, and the Commanders just aren't there yet this season. Week 10 proves that as well. Pittsburgh Steelers come into town, right? The Commanders were on a 2-game winning streak, lost to the Giants, and come Week 10, losing to the Steelers as well. The Steelers is a really good NFL team. From top to bottom, the Pittsburgh Steelers are probably one of the best teams in the NFL. If I had to put a number of how good the team is in general, they're a top 5 team. Their quarterback play just not has to suck for them to win a lot of games. Super Bowl? No. But winning a lot of games, a lot of regular season games, especially versus the Commanders, yes, the Steelers win this game. Week 11. We talked about the Philadelphia Eagles, yesterday, right? The Philadelphia Eagles are kind of a team that really high ceiling, really low floor. Kind of like the Commanders, right? I mean, the Commanders don't have as high a ceiling, but they got a pretty high ceiling, but a pretty low floor as well. And this game is a mixture of both. We see the best of one team and the worst of the other team. In the Eagles, we see the best of them in this game, and giving the Commanders a 3-game losing streak going into Week 12. Week 12, they are finally back at home. Finally had road losses to the Eagles, a home loss to the Commanders. They're back at home. Kind of reality has set in at this particular point, and you're just like, you know what? Let's just go out there and play ball, right? We're probably not going to make the playoffs. Right now, we're only sitting at 4 wins on the season. We are 4 and 6, right? 4 and 7. We're just not a very good team right now. Week 12, the Cowboys come into town. The Cowboys think that in the back of their head. Hey, easy win for us. The Commanders come up and bite them in the ass. The Commanders win this game. The Commanders start to put together some complete games again. And Week 13, that carries over. Back-to-back home games. Tennessee Titans come into town. I love me some Tennessee Titans. I love me Will Levis. The signing of Jamal Adams today makes me like the Tennessee Titans even that much better. But the Commanders do win this game. The Commanders win back-to-back games yet again over the Dallas Cowboys and the Tennessee Titans. Mark D is in the chat. He says, Buck, you have too much confidence in the Steelers. Slow it down, baby. Slow it down. He said he will make their good old line look like garbage, as in Russ. I don't know. Week 14 is the bye week for the Commanders. Much needed bye week. I love these late season bye weeks, especially for these younger teams, right, that have kind of gone through a gauntlet of a season so far. Especially with young quarterbacks, young players. Hey, we played 13 games. Let's get a rest. Let's relax. And Week 14, they kind of have a bye week hangover. I think Week 14, the Commanders go into New Orleans, and they just kind of just forget to show up, right? Because many of these college kids, right, they've been playing nonstop for 2 years, basically, right? From the national championship game, you have like 2 weeks off, then you're in to training mode, into combine mode, into pro day mode, and then draft. Everything's coming at you so fast, right? Week 15, they hit, quote, the freshman wall. And having that late season bye week, freshman wall is a recipe for disaster for the Commanders in Week 14 or Week 15, and they get the loss versus the Saints. Michael Glass is in the chat, says, what's up? He says, Huffy. I don't know what Huffy means. Like the bite? It is what it is. Week 16, Philadelphia Eagles come back into town. Basically, at this point, the Commanders have had 2 weeks off. Of course, the bye week, Week 14, forgetting to show up Week 15, they bounce back and they play a great game versus the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles are kind of just a sitting duck right now. They're battling for the playoffs lives. The Eagles, at this point, guys, have to win 4 of their last 5 games. They've already won 3 in a row at this particular point. Overlooking the Commanders, looking forward to the Cowboys the next week, and the Eagles dropped this game, giving the Commanders their 7th win on the season. And win number 8 comes Week 17. Week 17, when the Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons come into town. Too much Washington Commanders, too much confidence in them right now. The Commanders are playing some pretty good football right now. They are looking at an 8-8 schedule, and they're looking at an outside chance of making the playoffs going into Week 18. Basically, everything is out on the table Week 18. Win and you're in, right? When we get 9 wins, when we get a winning season, when we're the talk of the town. Too much Dallas Cowboys Week 18. Too much Dallas Cowboys week 18. The Commanders aren't quite ready to get over that ledge, to get over that hump in 2024. And I think they finished the season 8-9. I think the Washington Commanders are an 8-win team in this 2024 NFL season. I think Jaden Daniels is a good addition. I think Jaden Daniels is ultimately going to probably be the best quarterback out of this class. Better than Drake May, better than Caleb Williams. I like me some Jaden Daniels. I like his maturity level. I like his ability to kind of harness the game and slow it down. However, if the Commanders did not play the AFC North, they could potentially probably be a playoff team. Because when you play the AFC North, arguably the hardest division in football, Bengals, Browns, Ravens, Steelers, it is tough to get those wins. If you replace all of those guys with, let's say, the AFC West, right? You might split with them. You might go, hell, you might even go 1-3. But that one extra win is a 9-win season and potential playoff berth. Playing the AFC North for the NFC East this season is definitely a huge ego kick, right? But I do think the Washington Commanders are 8-9 this season, with wins over the Giants, Cardinals, Panthers, Bears, Cowboys, Titans, Eagles, and Falcons. I do think they split the division series. They are 3-3 with everybody, and ultimately they just can't quite get over that hump. So what do you guys think? Am I too high, too low on the Washington Commanders? Tomorrow, right here on Man Hour, guys, we'll be talking the full, complete NFC East. We'll be releasing what I think is going to happen, in stat form, so you guys see, like, we already know what's going to happen. But we're going to officially, post the rankings, where they stand, because ties and whatnot. And then, of course, you got way or no way. If you guys got a way or no way in any of the NFC East division, post it, DM me, do whatever you got to do. We'll answer that question for you guys tomorrow, right here on Man Hour, 2:30 East Coast time. Until then, we out.